Greetings and salutations. Welcome back to another edition of the Velvet Lounge Life with a creaky chair. But I want to thank you guys for coming back. Thank you to everyone that subscribed to the channel. The number of comments has increased exponentially, and I love that. And I think I responded back to every single person. If I missed you, it was purely by accident or some fault, I'm going to say, of YouTube's. And I haven't seen your message yet, but definitely I respond back to everyone, and I want to thank you for that. And today we're going to talk about a few different subjects. One will be charm strings. The other will be how I sort a bunch of buttons when I acquire them. That has been probably a top 3 question that I get really often on YouTube as well as Facebook. Also, I'm going to tell you about how you could win a wonderful junk journal lookbook that you can use to store your buttons in. It is a very unique and unusual but really cool way to store as well as display your collection, or at least parts of it. And I might throw in some other additional yummy, juicy tidbits. So without further ado, let's get into it. So one of the things that I have talked about many times, and I won't go into deep detail about, is I love using these Ferrero Rocher Lucite containers. They're like the candy container, to store buttons that are a little more special to me. So obviously I would need, I don't know, hundreds upon hundreds of these to store my entire collection. So I don't put everything in these. I only put the buttons that are most special, unique. My dream list buttons, of course, are in these as well. And I do have, you know, like some other folks, I have the tin boxes. I have the plastic covered tubs, that type of thing. There's like this shoebox size tub that you can buy from almost any store. I usually get mine from Target. And I want to say they're like $2, $3 each. And of course, when they're doing their sale in the late winter, so they're preparing us for spring, they usually do this white sale. And when they do the white sales, they usually obviously put the storage solutions on sale as well. So I wait until then, and usually then you could get for like 2 for $3. Like there, and maybe, and I don't know this for a fact, do not quote me, but you should do your own research. I think you can get them from like discount stores, like Odd Lot or Job Lot stores, stuff like that. Dollar stores, maybe, not sure. I would be highly surprised if you couldn't get them there, and they probably will be a little bit smaller or different or whatever, but they can't be that different. They're just used to store stuff and to keep things dry, which is important when you're storing buttons, whether they're plastic or metals or whatever they're made of, is keeping them clean and dry and dust free. So getting to more the subject of why we're here is sorting. So initially, when I acquire a bunch of buttons, a collection, even if it's like something that's well sorted out, and I really honestly prefer to buy what I call raw collections. Raw collections are collections where it's, you know, someone's grandma's bunch of sewing stuff, and there's some buttons in there, whether it be a tin or a shoebox or whatever it is, full of buttons. They're not sorted. They're not in special little plastic bags. They're, you know, not attached to boards or anything. They're just, you know, as buttons came and went, as clothing became ragged, they took these buttons off and they threw them into this box or whatever they were storing them in. And now you have many decades later become the new owner of that collection of buttons, or that bunch of buttons, if you will. I consider that to be a raw collection or a raw bunch of buttons. Now, what I consider to be a picked over, a displayed set of buttons are buttons that are obvious, like they're separated by color or by type. They are attached to boards, you can kind of tell just when you look at the buttons that like there's no variety in there because they probably picked out all of the best buttons or all of a particular material that buttons are made out of. So I honestly, I just pass those by. I don't consider them. I don't look at them, at all, because what I'm looking for is probably, and I'm telling you, it's like 99% usually is not in that collection. Sometimes you'll find what you're looking for in collections like that because they are priced appropriately. So these people are usually collectors themselves. Someone else in their family maybe was a collector. And so you're not going to get the bargain basement price that you hope to get for those buttons. I am always looking for the bargain basement price because to me, I'm not investing my hard-earned cash into buttons. Buttons are not an investment vehicle. Do not do it. It makes no sense. And with that, later on in this video, we will talk about the madness of King George when it comes to charm strings and the prices that, someone or a few people are paying for them and the caution that one should take before doing so. So getting back to sorting. So, yep, there goes the squeaky chair. Yay, it's a mascot. So one of the things that I do initially when I acquire a collection of buttons, as I've acquired here, you're seeing just part of the collection here. There's over here to that side. There's more pearl buttons, wooden buttons. There's buttons of every persuasion one could possibly imagine, shape, size, color, material. And I can't show you everything. One, all of it will not fit into your view on the screen. And two, the video would be extremely long, and it's already going to be long enough, but hopefully chocked full of useful information. So my first sort that I do, like I said, the sorting seems to be like a top 1, 2, 3 question that I get. The first, and I get it because sorting can be a little overwhelming for people, especially if you're not familiar with buttons, you don't really know what you have or what they, you know what they are, but you don't know what they are as far as materials, maybe values. As you know, on this channel, rarely do I discuss values. Maybe one day we'll talk about values. Etc. So I get why some people are overwhelmed with it and why it's such a popular question on my Facebook page as well as here on YouTube. Mostly on Facebook because I'm part of a few button groups. But one of the things that I do initially is I simply go through and look to see if I have any of my dream list buttons or my favorite types of buttons in the pile. So I actually have this box that is cut down. It used to have like cans of our dog's food in it, and because we buy it by the case, so it's actually cut down to like I guess I'll call it a pallet size, and I can just dump a ton of buttons in there. And they're all mixed up together because that's usually how I buy them. And I could sit down and take my time. And I have like 4 other containers, which are these plastic containers that have lids. They look like shoe boxes. And they're actually sold, I think, as like storage solutions for shoes and sneakers. And they only cost like, I'm going to say anywhere from $1.50 to maybe $2 or $3 each. I usually buy them when there's a white sale. So the white sale season here in New England is usually in January and maybe a little bit in February at our department stores out here. And when you buy them then, not only, especially if you buy them online, using Roycoton to get your discount off of your total purchase, usually you get free shipping, and even if you only spent a single dollar, you will get cash back. So that link is down below in the description. Make sure you check it out. And I'll also put it in the comments to make it easier for you. So when I buy them around that time, I only spend about $1.50 for these boxes. As a matter of fact, I'll show you what one looks like. It looks like this. So you have this shoebox size box. It has its own lid and it's deep. It's meant for you to put a pair of shoes in or sneakers. The ones that I buy are usually by this company, Sterilite, and they're awesome. They're great for lots of things, not just for buttons, obviously. So if you're trying to get your house in order and neat and tidy, we actually use them for our vitamins. So I have one for my vitamins. My husband has one for his vitamins because he takes different vitamins than I do, and supplements, and we put them in our walk-in pantry, and we don't have a bunch of bottles all over the place. Not like we have that many like vitamin supplements anyway, but still neat, tidy. So that I have usually like 4 of those out. So when I'm sorting out of my giant palette, I can actually just throw the buttons, or not throw, lovingly place them into those initial sorting, I guess I'll call them tiny bins. And then I usually have like another, like 2 smaller boxes where I put what I call my junk buttons. They're buttons that are definitely better than normal and great for projects. So I put those in there, and then I have the garbage can, usually is near, a small one, of course. And I will throw away the ones that have, you know, button diseases that cannot be treated, that are obviously broken and cannot be used for anything else. And then I have usually just a tiny little box for buttons that are broken but can be used for other crafts. And those go into my bits and bob jars. I have 2 bits and bob jars. They probably weigh about 8 to 10 pounds each. And they don't just have button pieces in there. There's, you know, broken jewelry. There's teeny tiny things, you know, things that I would use for crafts and other projects in the future. So that way all this sorting is sort of organized, and you can sort of put it all away easily and go back to it easily. I do have a workshop, a studio, whatever you want to call it, that I do quite a bit out of. So I'm able to, you know, lay this out on a table, turn on a video, preferably a video from the Velvet Lounge Life. I'm only kidding about that, but I thought it was, I'm telling you, I thought that was kind of funny. But you can do that. You should turn on a video from the Velvet Lounge Life while you're sorting through your buttons, because you'll learn some stuff, enjoy some stuff, and we'll be together. So you know, while you're doing, turn on music, whatever it is that you want to do. The thing I don't like doing is being distracted though, because you might miss something. So my initial sort is, like I said, it's that quick. It's like, what am I looking for on a regular basis because it's interesting, it's on my wish list, it's the type of button that I collect and keep for myself. And then my second sort is looking for specific things. For example, maybe now, and what that means is I'm going back into the box top, and I'm now looking for buttons that have writing on the back of them, because certain buttons with certain writing you want to pay attention to. Others, it doesn't make a difference. And then I'm also looking to see if I missed anything as far as what my favorites are and my wish list items are. The other thing I'm looking for are the buttons that I know other people would be interested in, because they are unusual. It's something that they collect. You know, it's not necessarily something I collect. Like, this is a good example. This is not a button that I normally collect, but this is a very collectible button. If you see these buttons, you should definitely, without hesitation, pick these up. And another that I don't normally collect are these this version of the China button. I don't collect any China buttons at all, honestly, or the calico ones. But, dude, there's no way that I'm not pulling these out as something that's special, cool, unique. And not to say just because I don't collect it does not mean I'm not going to use them in a future project or one of these videos, for example. So you just want to make sure that you pay attention to what you're leaving in the box and what you're pulling out of the box and have some purpose behind it. The third type of sort that I do is really to try to make sure I didn't miss anything, because the only buttons I should have left in my palette are buttons that I'm going to use for future projects, because they're good enough to use for future projects. But it's okay if I glue them or if I break the shank off or whatever I decide to do with them, but they're too nice to be considered junk buttons. Now, if you want to see an example of junk buttons, please leave a comment down below. And remember, by leaving a comment and being a subscriber to this channel, you are going to be entered to win a wonderful junk journal lookbook. I'm giving away 2 of them. I made them myself, so they are one of a kind, as well as they're made with love and attention. I paid the postage. That's all you have to do is really be a participant, like I said, by subscribing to this channel. Leave any comment that you want down below. It could be an answer to any of the questions I ask. It could also just be an emoji. That's fine. Also, if you watch old videos that we have out there, then each time you watch one of those and leave a comment, that is an additional entry. So you can enter as many times as you want. I mean, we're going to count those. There's actually a YouTube electronic app that you can use that will actually pull out comments based upon date and randomly scramble them and select a couple winners. So we will be doing that. So exciting. And let me just show you something. So this is an example of something that you can win. And in here, I think I did a tour of this particular journal. I will try to remember to attach that video to this one so that you can see it. And I will put the links in the description and the card. Let me just make a note. And what I did with one of these is I actually created a junk journal lookbook for buttons. I will definitely attach a copy of that video to this so that you can see that there's a very unique and unusual way that you can store your buttons, and not only store them, but use it as a unique way to display your buttons as well, whether it's at a button show, in your home, laying on a beautiful piece of lace, or whatever it is. There's a really weird and unique way for you to show off your buttons that everyone is going to ooh and ah over, because so far that's what's happened to me, and I was like so happy. So after my last sort, I'm now ready to honestly take a you know, it's probably 2 o'clock in the morning, because when I'm sorting, I usually start late and I will not stop until I'm finished. That's just the way I am. I believe in getting the job done, but I believe in quality. So what I do the very next day or over the next couple of days is I go through the items that I sorted just to make sure I sorted everything the way I wanted them. Now, obviously, I'm talking about sorting for large collections or, you know, several pounds of buttons. If you just have like a pound or two or less, obviously, you won't have to do anything, obviously, as extravagant. And you may only need to go through your sort once. And also, if you are only looking for very specific buttons, like there are people who are, you know, 70, I'll even say 65, 70, 80, 90 years old who might still be collecting. They're not, hopefully, collecting everything. They're collecting very specific things. And if you do that, obviously, the only thing you'll need to do is just double check that in the leftover buttons, the buttons that you're not keeping, just make sure that you didn't accidentally miss anything. One of the other things I do with my metal buttons, because those get separated out into a different pile, is I will also go through and look for semi-precious or precious metals. It is not often that you're going to find sterling silver or true gold, not gold filled, but true gold metals, but it does happen. And usually it's the button that you think is like the least likely. You have to think to yourself, if something is, especially if it's made out of, you know, gold, it's not going to be giant and heavy and, you know, in your face. It's probably going to be something a little more subtle and demure, but still pretty, and it can be very plain and simple. So, you know, don't overlook those types of finds. So that's really how I sort buttons. So I want to spend like the last couple minutes looking at a few buttons. Some buttons that I really was excited about finding in this pile were these vintage wooden buttons. Let me get this one. And you guys, look at that. And this is a few of them. I have a few more. And do they need, like this one with the hash marks and the various colors up here, obviously has a little gunk on it. That's, you know, not a sorting thing. Usually what I do is after everything is sorted and I'm happy and this, you know, sorting is finished, it's done. That's when I, you know, as I go through and I'm double checking things, I'll have my water and I'll have a little bit of window cleaner and some of my favorite paper towel, Bounty, so that I can like just clean anything off, you know, have a couple Q-tips there and a dry, soft toothbrush like this, so that you can clean anything up. But you guys, candy. These are so beautiful though. I hate to say it, I feel like I'm into these, which means I would have to start collecting them. And I'm not whittling down my collection because I'm not like as old yet, but I am particular about, you know, what I will put in my collection, because you can kind of go overboard. I do like variety, that I will say. I am not biased or prejudiced against any type of button. It's about how interesting it is. It's, you know, sometimes it's the materials, but honestly, I like, you know, molded plastic buttons, just like I love these beautiful abalone shell buttons. And the list goes on and on. And here you see it goes from here to all the way over here, here, down here, up, back again. All of these are Colt rock buttons, but there are probably 8 of them. I'll say 8 to 10 of them that I have to double check because they may not be Colt rock, but the majority of these are from like here all the way over down there. So I'm so excited to have them. My favorites, I think you guys have heard me say this before, are their tulips. I already have some tulips, but hello, can you ever have enough? And those are absolutely stunning. They have that 1930s design to them, 1940s, even slightly Art Deco. Delicious. And look at these big chunky wooden buttons. These things, and they are wood. You can't see the wood grain as well in this video maybe, but if you had them in your hand, you could 100% tell that these are made of wood. And they're the chunkiest wooden buttons I've ever had. That's why I sort of put them to the side. Over here, whoa, 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 whoa. There are some amazing metal buttons. Look at this one that has the red enameling on it. That is super cool. I don't know if you can see it well enough, so I'm going to actually use some tweezers and the old background. Look at that. That's beautiful. And yeah, there's so many here that's like an entirely separate video to go through. There's twinklers, mirror backs, whatever you want to call them. There's definitely several pictorial ones. Here's one I thought that was really interesting. And I actually had to look at it a couple times to tell what it is. So I'm going to let you look at it and then you tell me what you think it is. Actually, I'll even make it a little larger. It's a girl with an umbrella. Can you see it? This is the umbrella right here. And you can even see the top, the finial of the umbrella. This is a girl. And it almost looks like... Let me see where she's standing. Can I tell? I really can't tell, but very interesting buttons. And there's other pictorial ones in here as well that are interesting. Like everything is interesting. Interesting group of, actually I'll go back up here, of buttons made from material. I know that was like one of the videos I promised you guys I would do at some point in the future. The future isn't here yet, so yes, it's still coming. Look at these. It says fine ivory. I don't know if you can see that. So these are ivory buttons, and they have an amazing design to them. And my assumption, I'm making this up because I honestly don't know. I see that it said that they cost 50 cents when they were new, made by Plus Ultra. So I can definitely do some research on these. But I feel like these are definitely of that deco period as well. But really cool, really unusual. And so one of the final things I want to talk about is our charm string. So there's been this thing lately, and I'm saying it's like in the last couple years or so, where people are representing charm strings as being antique when they are not. The buttons are antique and vintage, but the charm string itself is not antique. The charm string was made over, I would say, in the last few years. So there's only a couple people out there that are wild enough, I guess I'll say, to be kind, to purchase these for hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of dollars. So seeing them go for $400, $600, honestly not surprising anymore. But what is wrong with the whole situation is that these are truly not antique charm strings. The antique charm strings would have a very delicate string, and to the point that most never survive because, hello, they're strung on string and they're hundreds of years old. It is easy for someone to age a piece of, twine that one would use to tie up maybe a packet of meat. You could buy it at any store, online, Amazon, etc. and age it using tea, coffees. Literally leave it in your yard, bring it inside, rinse it off really well. If it's not dirty enough, put it back out there and let it naturally get dirty, and then string your buttons on that way. But another way to tell that you don't have something that's truly genuine charm strings actually had other items strung on the charm strings with them. So I mean, I could actually do like a half-hour video on this. If you want more information, please leave a request down below in the comments, and I will definitely cover the topic more. I think it's important because, you know, are these charm strings? Yes. Are they real charm strings? Yes. A charm string made last week of whatever you wanted to make it of is a real charm string. The issue is when you call it antique. And antique should be something that's 80 to 100 years old or older. Something that's made like in the last couple of years obviously is not an antique. And let alone if it's in the last, 79 years, it's more vintage. So the title of those listings should really be charm string with antique vintage buttons. It shouldn't be antique charm strings. And, people are overpaying for these. Also, buttons are not a monetary investment. So buttons should be fun. I mean, if it's museum quality and you know exactly what you have and the value, etc., that's different and that is rare. So just be aware, be knowledgeable, get educated, watch